Hey, Morningstar small groups. Pastor Matt here for this cold January edition of our small group video blog. Yesterday I was at Starbucks with one of our great small group leaders, and just a side note, if we haven't had coffee yet, click the link in the email to sign up. I'd love to be able to have coffee with you if you're a small group leader. So anyway, she had this great question that I want to discuss in this video. I think many of us as small group leaders deal with this on a weekly basis in our groups. But first, let me kind of tell you a story that you might have heard about at one time. So there's this horrific crime that happened in New York City. I believe it was in the 1980s. A person was assaulted and stabbed in an alley in between two apartment buildings. And when the police arrived to interview the neighbors, they discovered that something like 60 people either saw or witnessed the crime. But even when someone yelled, "Call 911," none of them did. Why? Because everyone thought someone else would do it. Now, what does this horrible crime teach us about leading our small groups? Well, what it does is it teaches us to be specific with people when facilitating the discussion during group time. See, what many of us can get in the habit of doing is using our leader's guide and reading the questions, and then we respond with something like, "So what do you guys think?" Or, "Does anyone have a situation in their life that resembles this?" Although those are great questions, sometimes our group members will remain quiet. They'll peer into their book and they'll act like they're really analyzing the question. Why? Because in some situations, everybody thinks someone else will talk. So how do we remedy the situation of a quiet group that won't speak up? Call on one person specifically. Rather than saying, "What do you guys think about this?" Pick someone in the room and say, "John, how do you feel about that?" Or, "Kathy, have you had a similar situation in your life?" You see, it doesn't matter whether an emergency happens and someone needs to be told to call 911, or you're facilitating a question in your small group. If you tell a specific person to call 911 or ask a specific person a question, you're more likely to get a response. So remember this tidbit, and I encourage you, try it out in your next group gathering, and we'll see you in worship this weekend.